Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC podcast, brought to you by the REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me as always,
Erik Icarus.
And we have our special guest, the Big Tuna, Jordan Tunney.
I actually hate tuna. So that's...
yeah, I'm okay with it. Like I don't have a strong relationship towards it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Dad.
Kids, we're recording live from the REC kitchen. This is actually not the first time we've recorded in this kitchen.
We
did a bunch of audio here when I first moved into my house. The basement where we normally record is a mess because of our shop that we're opening. More details to come. And we're recording up here. And
we also did a butterbeer episode up here.
We also did a butterbeer episode. And to not be outdone, the Big Tuna brought us something. But first, you can follow us on Instagram at the REC Podcast. You can follow myself at Roman REC Podcast. You can follow REC Comics and Collectibles as well. Check us out there. And again, pay attention to REC Comics for updates on the shop. You may be wondering what we have going on here. It is not St. Patrick's Day.
No.
It is not The Secret of the Ooze, which is actually, is it pink?
No, it's green.
It is green. See? Yeah. All right, cool. But Tuna, why don't you tell us that you wouldn't be outdone by a friend of the show, Dave?
Yeah. So butterbeer's cool.
Yeah.
When you're 6. Now as a '90s kid, staple. It was pretty much like a whole side of my pyramid, of the food pyramid, and that was Hi-C's Ecto Cooler, which was a Hi-C drink, box drink that was tied in with Ghostbusters. Had Slimer on it, and it was just one of those things where it's like it was always good. Warm or cold, refrigerated, if it was in your sack lunch, whatever, loved it. Then 2016 rolls around, Lady Ghostbusters releases. They do a re-release of Ecto Cooler in can form, available in a few different stores, really kind of hard to come by right as the film kind of wrapped up its marketing. Then we come back to Ghostbusters Afterlife. They're doing a big marketing push. Now the movie was moved back because of the pandemic. We've got a cereal tie-in. Twinkies is doing a tie-in, which totally makes sense with the Ghostbusters, with the first movie, with Egon describing, but we don't know for sure yet. We haven't gotten any confirmation. My sources inside the food and beverage world have yet to disclose whether or not we're going to get a re-release of Ecto Cooler. I'm guessing we probably will, since hopefully. This Afterlife is a sequel to the first two, and it feels like more of a natural tie-in, but just like anything on the internet, I believe the first thing I saw, and that was a recipe for copycat Ecto Cooler. So here's our finished product. And I will say, I think it looks pretty good over ice because we went with a slightly darker green tint, and with ice cubes, it kind of it brightens it up a little bit.
Get a little closer.
Yeah, let's get a little closer to the camera. Don't worry, I got my shot. So you can see here, it's definitely darker towards the bottom here. And then with the ice cubes, gives a little bit more of that greenish slime color from Ghostbusters. That's what we were aiming for.
Now, I will say, I do think it looks a little dark to me, but the ice, like what you said, the the ice does does diffuse it enough. Yeah. It looks really good. It's so close.
It's pretty spot on.
I'm an Ecto Cooler aficionado. I have a can locked up.
It does.
And this tastes great. Now, our Dookie's going to be real green tomorrow, right? Yeah.
That's the dice you roll in life.
Speaking of Dookie, we are recording this consequently on the day Missy Elliott and Fall Out Boy re-released the cover of Ghostbusters I Ain't Afraid. So, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it can't be worse than that.
Nothing's worse than that.
Yeah, so the recipe is really simple. A few different liquids, a few other powdery substances, which, I mean, we're not talking about drugs here. Okay, so, really simple. We did about 1 cup of orange juice. No pulp. There's no pulp and slime, I promise you. You do not want pulp and slime. That is a whole different genre of film. In playing around with the flavors a little bit, flavor profiles, my first attempt at this used tangerine juice, pure tangerine juice, really, really tart. I was like, maybe I could try something a little bit different. So this is my second iteration, and it is a Welch's that's orange pineapple and apple. It's their juice cocktail. So we went a little bit lighter on that. I didn't want it to overpower because it needs to have some of that citrus orange flavor. I was afraid it was going to get lost with some of the pineapple or some of the apple. We ended up, I think, finding a good sweet spot to it.
Yeah.
Some the other things we added a cup of sugar, and this is a pitcher about the size of a gallon. They recommended a cup and a half, but like honestly, I don't want to pay those dentist bills.
Yeah.
So we went with a cup, and I feel like it's sweet enough.
It is not too sweet at all.
No,
it's great.
No, obviously, a few other things were added in there. We did 1 tablespoon of the lemonade, Country Time lemonade powder mix, and then we ended up doing about 4 of the Tang orange drink mix. And I saw some people were saying like that the orange Kool-Aid was not as good. That Tang is the way to go. You get a better flavor profile.
Tang's just better anyway.
Yeah. So, and then the last step was the food dye. So the drink came out pretty yellowish orange. Couple drops, like I'm not kidding you. It was probably 3 drops of blue, and this thing went like dark green.
Yeah.
This went like evergreen, like Hallmark movie channel green. So then we added a little bit more. That's when we added a little bit more of the orange juice, a little bit more of the juice cocktail. That brought the color up a little bit. Dropped in some yellow food dye. So it's one of those things where it's like definitely less is more for sure.
Yeah.
And the blue will turn it quicker to dark green than the yellow will lighten it up.
Yes.
So go light on the blue. Is what I'd recommend, but I'm not kidding you. When as soon as I took the first sip of this, like if I was at a restaurant and I had this, I'd immediately say it was Ecto Cooler. Like that's where my mind would go.
Yeah.
So it's close enough.
It's close enough.
I'll get you there.
I'm digging it. That'll make your bull run. But if you add a little, this one's for the adults, kids. Okay, not a sponsor. If you add a little bit of tequila, what was the drink called?
It is a roaming vapor, which is a description of a ghost. Which is a description of a ghost in the Ghostbusters universe.
Oh yeah.
Almost like an on the rocks margarita. You could probably do like a sugar around the rim of the glass.
With
kind of
that
thing
orange
or something.
sugar. Oh yeah, perfect.
Ooh, I'd like an orange and cayenne. Ooh, orange and cayenne
That's what's
sugar.
up. That's what's
that
up.
would be tasty. All right, let's see this. This is my house, so I'm the one who doesn't have to drive.
Is that
It's good. It's good. It's very necessary.
Ooh.
Yeah, totally fine.
That's
totally
pretty good.
fine.
That's
Yeah,
pretty darn good actually.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Very good.
So,
Very
I mean,
good.
I'm glad it turned out, once again, couple simple ingredients, orange juice. I'd recommend going with either an orange and tangerine or a tangerine. I think we'll probably get a maybe better flavor. I don't think the juice cocktail, the Welch's juice cocktail, gave us as close of a flavor as I wanted to. You've got 1 tablespoon of the lemonade, Country Time lemonade mix, 4 tablespoons of Tang. You could probably go 3 maybe, and then kind of see how you feel, at that point. And then once again, go light on that food dye there, blue food dye. Blue and the orange going to get you that green color real quick.
Yeah, delicious. What does that have to do with today's show? Nothing.
We like Ghostbusters.
We like Ghostbusters. We're big
Did you like the
Ghostbusters fan
cartoon?
here. I did. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, there was 2 Ghostbuster cartoons.
Yes, I like the real Ghostbusters.
Real Ghostbusters
Real
was the one
Ghostbusters, what's
we're
up?
talking about.
The
The other Ghostbusters on some 70s scrappy shit.
But we do have some green things to talk about in the fact that episode 2 of Loki came out. I've been digging this show. Eric's been on the fence. He and I have not talked about this episode at all yet, so this is going to be fresh. The Tuna and I have spoken briefly. But what are you guys thinking of the direction of the show?
I would say I feel more confident in what the show's doing after the second episode.
Okay.
And I don't know if I got burned on WandaVision a little bit, because I did end up liking WandaVision.
Yes.
But some of the quirkiness and the strings were tied too quickly at the end. And I feel like Loki, it's kind of playing a little bit of like a police procedural a little bit with investigating crimes. Yeah. I think that's helping kind of tease out some of the story. I feel like they did a good job showing us that the Loki that died in Infinity War was not the Loki captured at the end of Avengers.
Yeah.
He was still a villain at that point. And then he's redeemed through Dark World, and then eventually that culminates in Ragnarok, and then we see, he kind of takes this like I can change my ways sort of mentality right as he dies. I think they did a good job in the first episode kind of recapping that, and I think we're going to continue to see more of that empathy side as we go through the show.
I'm loving the direction, and I love Owen Wilson. I love Owen Wilson, and I get that he's still kind of just being Owen Wilson, but it feels like it's he's taking it a little bit more serious. Eric,
I gotta say, I'm not with it.
Wow,
I'm really not. It goes a lot to what you're saying. It's almost a paint by numbers police show with time travel stuff thrown in there. Just to maybe, like you said, it adds to this quirkiness that I don't feel it needs to be in this. This can be a straight ahead. I think this could have been. I know it's Marvel and you've got to have the levity, but I think we were talking a little bit before the show. And I think this is going to add more problems to the MCU.
That is funny that you say that, because Jordan and I have been kind of having that conversation as well. We're going to talk spoilers, kids. We're not going to talk about the entire episode and all of its parts, but we will talk about the end reveal. So if you haven't seen episode 2, go ahead and pause this. I'm just going to jump to the end reveal. What do you guys think of the Lady Loki?
Oh, I saw that coming.
Well, I mean, but
I think everyone did.
Yeah, well, that was the big thing, but it's clearly not.
You don't think that's Loki?
No, dude, I think it's Enchantress.
Okay.
Yeah, blonde.
Okay.
Loki even says, "Ooh, enchantment." They did say that the different Lokis of different timelines can have different powers.
Right.
So maybe the Enchantress is the Loki of that world, but I do think it's the Enchantress.
It's Loki as Enchantress.
I think
that's where I'm going. I think that's what I'm feeling with you. I think they're just throwing that in there as kind of maybe a red herring. Like, oh, it's sort of with the Mephisto things with WandaVision. Like, oh, it's totally gonna be Enchantress, and it's probably just gonna be a version of Loki that calls herself the Enchantress. I think that's where it's going.
Two things. Number one, Marvel loves to show you the true villain at the end. They did it with WandaVision. They did it with Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
They've done it pretty much in almost all. I mean, Iron Man 3 was the big one where it's like the Mandarin's not the Mandarin. God, I love Ben Kingsley. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think there's
Trevor.
I think there's two. We need to see him again. We need him in Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's going to be in Shang-Chi.
Yes, he is.
Like,
He's
didn't
got
even
to
think
be.
about
Yes.
it. Like, I bet you they bring him in and they just kill him.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, I want him to be some kind of like I want him to be like Q. I want him to somehow help the hero. I don't know. That doesn't make, okay. Yeah. So here's what I'll say. I think there's two things at the that kind of clue us into what's going on. The first episode ends with that big bomb drop. Loki, you're gonna want to help me because we are chasing you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That big hook. Okay. And it wouldn't be the first time that Marvel likes to throw us sideways. The second clue. Went back and watched the episode earlier today to be a little bit fresh. Is what the variant said to Loki at the end.
Yes.
It's not about you.
Yeah.
I feel like a Loki would say it's not about us. And so part of me feels, and now that's not to say that I think they're going to wait till the very end to tell us if it's not actually a Loki variant.
Right.
I don't think we're going to wait till the very end. I think we'll probably find out pretty early on in the next episode, maybe. But I still feel like we're, what this purpose, what this mission is, and I've been reading a lot of theories that the TVA is actually malevolent, and so by the time Loki learns what's happening, they're trying to undo all of these things, which then it's sort of like, why not just tell them, like, hey Loki, the TVA is bad, you need to help, and so I'm wondering kind of where they may go with this. What the Infinity Stones were for Marvel is what I believe the multiverse is going to be this next phase, where everything is going to have multiverse implications, and it's going to be something where it's like, each of the Infinity War movies, the Infinity Stones had a role to play, either directly or indirectly, right? And that was kind of the orbit that all of the stories came around, and I think now, there's gonna be some variant or change with Shang-Chi with the multiverse. It's obviously gonna be part of Doctor Strange. It's in the title. Far from No Way Home, Spider-Man. They're definitely cluing us in that there's going to be multiverse implications. So I think that Loki is really supposed to be kind of this springboard towards these other realities, into how they are created, maybe. And then these movies, we're going to see the ramifications of it.
Okay. Wow, that's in depth. I wish I would have watched the episode a second time to do this with you.
Do you think we're gonna get Kang a reveal in this, or just a mention? You think?
I honestly don't think we'll see him as the actor. I think they'll wait till Quantumania. Ant-Man Quantumania, where he's already been cast. But I do think that the timekeepers, I think that's a red herring. I think that the timekeepers protecting the sacred timeline. My theory is that they're streamlining any potential threats to Kang, and that we'll find that out by the end.
Yeah.
And then
that'll be the villains, is the timekeepers, or whatever, whoever the man behind the curtain is.
Exactly. Yeah. I do think there's a possibility that a time loop exists. They hint to it in the second episode. Well, they hint to something not being right when Owen Wilson's meeting with his superior, his captain, of the police force, where there's like a ring stain on the table, and it's like, oh, I thought I'm the only one. I thought it was your favorite one. And then there was that whole thing about the jet skis in the 90s. And maybe he's actually from the 90s. Maybe he was a jet ski rider in the 90s with a mullet and the big reflective glasses and the whole Baywatch vibe and stuff. And so that's his it's kind of like Westworld. You really can't erase them from them. It still kind of pops out. But I also think another theory. Sony has given us a look at Carnage. Mm-hmm. Sony's already cast Kraven. Obviously, we saw the Morbius stuff a long time ago, which everyone has forgotten about.
Yeah, it comes out, I think, in January next year. 2022?
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, but they have not released, other than, I believe, 3 stills. One that shows Tom Holland, Mary Jane, and the friend. Mm-hmm.
Ned,
yes. Ned, It shows the 3 of them. I think that's the only still we've seen. No marketing materials, no teaser, other than the casting rumors and some of the confirmed casting with Jamie Foxx. That was kind of the first big one that people were like, whoa.
Yeah, what's going to happen?
You're casting someone from another Spider-Man franchise, and then Alfred Molina, and there's been talk about Paul Giamatti, Thomas Hayden Church. Willem Dafoe has been super, he won't talk anything. He was doing an interview the other day. It was I'm not saying anything about any projects I've done. It'll come out in good time. And so this whole idea that that the villains were captured from their worlds, that they're at the sanctum, they're released. That Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn, is going to be the Norman Osborn moving forward.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. I'm down.
But yeah, and so maybe there is not a Norman Osborn in the Tom Holland universe, but now there will be. And so anyway, all those are theories, but because of the multiverse implications, I think that Sony intentionally has been dragging their feet because of something we're going to see in Loki. Yeah. Because Loki is a multiverse storyline. More so, obviously, Winter Soldier had really nothing to do with it. Oh, yeah. In WandaVision was all just in... She is a war criminal. Let's be real. Yeah. She is a war criminal, and it was all in her head. Anyway, all that is to say, the fact that they've been super hush-hush, and even the social media has been mocking and teasing and making jokes about they were here's a first look at the trailer, and it was a giant semi-truck. They are clearly they know this is happening, and so I think it's for a reason. And I think that in one of these upcoming episodes, it's going to be and then the next day the trailer's going to drop, or 2 days, and it's going to be right on the heels. That's
because the pandemic did push things back. Yeah. So I'm wondering how much of this was done and it had to wait.
And you know what? It could be something as simple as a mention or a passing, thing. Could be something on a screen. Or it could be, Loki pops up in a post-apocalyptic New York and Tom Holland does a cameo. Yeah. They've teased that there's going to be a major cameo. Paul Bettany teased his major cameo, but they have teased that there is going to be a major cameo on the show, and that so. It could be leaning that way. The cameo could be one of the villains or something. I mean, or Doctor Strange, because obviously there's a tie in there with the multiverse. So all that is to say, I think that there is going to be a connection between Spider-Man's marketing, the reason they're holding off, and the Loki series. It's, I believe, 6 episodes. I believe it's going to be 6 episodes.
Oh, it's not going to be 8? Okay.
I
think you're right. I think I remember being disappointed about this before.
Right, but it is. I mean, we're almost halfway through now at this point, right? We've gotten 2 full episodes. Third episode's about to drop.
Episode 3 will come out tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday.
Right. So anyway, I think what I've been enjoying about it is its differentness, and I feel like the following episodes are not going to be like the first 2. Like, I don't think we're going to see the formulaic cop episode because of the way the second episode ends. Loki's pursuing the variant. He's gone. The TVA may not be able to find him, or they're going to try to track him down after this cataclysmic detonation of all these time bombs, creating all these branches, and who's going to be cleaning up. And anyway, so there's a lot of story they can do, but at the same time, there's a lot of story that can be done and not done well. So I'm hoping that they really... The problem with multiverse stuff is that when you have infinite possibilities, you have infinite possibilities. Yeah. And...
it's option paralysis at that point. Yes, what do we do? Like, we got so much going on here.
Because at that point, you can rewrite anything that's happened in this series. Tony Stark can come back. Steve Rogers can come back. You know, I mean, there's all these, you know, and they're doing the what if. You know, I mean, there's all these what ifs that could happen. I want to see them streamline some of it by the end of the show, so that there's not this crippling, like, anything's gonna happen now after Loki, like,
and it will cheapen the other things that have happened.
Yes.
That's the big issue.
Yes.
You know,
is there a chance that Kang had been imprisoned and then blowing up these charges, like, kind of gets him out of his, like, time prison or something like that?
Or maybe what it does is it creates offshoots where he has a better chance, where it's only got to be one, you know, or something, and it sets a string of events in motion. That could be. You know, I've always liked the Marvel stories and the DC stories, although we don't see it as much in DC. I've always liked the superhero stories in which the villains have a good reason for what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And you know, one of my favorite ones was like Doc Ock, where, you know, in Spider-Man 2, where, you know, his madness was driven by that scientific desire, you know, that took over his life, that, you know, I can just make this better. Or, you know, you look at you know, even with the Wonder Woman 1884, like, I actually thought it was kind of neat to, like, tie in this whole, like, Maxwell Lord wants more, you know, but ultimately it's going to cost him his family that he recognized, which, you know, may be a little bit of a cop-out, but I mean, that's actually also another reason why it's one of the things I didn't care too much about with the Dark Knight, the Nolan Dark Knight, because simply, and I know I'm probably going to step on some comic toes, and you're probably getting ready to hit me. I've never liked the idea of the Joker just being crazy. Like,
so I don't think he's crazy.
No, because to do what he does requires a level of certitude, intelligence, and follow through that I think it's a facade. You know, and I think there's some hints in the movie. There's the whole thing about how he's holding the gun to, you know, his head with dent, but he's got his finger on the hammer so the trigger won't fire. All that is to say, you know, I think they did a solid job explaining what the League of Shadows was doing in the first one.
Yeah,
I think they actually did a somewhat decent job. One of the only few things that was pretty good about The Dark Knight Rises was the motivation, you know, Bane's tie back into it. There's a whole idea of like we're going to finish what we started. Like, it's personal. This is why it's happening in Gotham. But you know, I'd like to see that the villains, whether it's this Enchantress villain, and they did a good job explaining what happened with Wanda, why she was doing what she was doing.
Right.
I want to understand, not agree with.
Sure.
What's happening. And so maybe it's an attempt to free Kang to undo the enchantment that took over her life, or whatever it is. Or, you know, like, you know, the only way to rid my, you know, I can do all this magic, but I can't fix myself.
Wow.
So if I can find something out there that can, you know, and and then you're put in the dilemma of, does Loki and the TVA stop what they're doing, you know, or you know, or allow time to be reset? I think there's a lot of ways they can go with it, but it's funny because I always loved time travel stuff as a kid. Back to the Future, Terminator. I loved all that stuff. But the multiverse, to me, presents a whole different problem because unlike time travel, where things can be undone, or there can be some kind of there can be some certitude, some endpoint with time travel. depending on whichever time travel logic you're using, like the Back to the Future or like the looper idea, like is time linear or circular. But with multiverse, because you have unlimited possibilities, I don't want to see unlimited stories. Right. I want to see finality. I want to see things finished. I want to see new characters introduced. I want to see old characters' stories get wrapped up.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good way to do it, too.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the idea that maybe some of the TVA personnel, what if they are time variants themselves? And it's one of those things like, we can disintegrate you, or you can help us catch other time variants, you know? Mm-hmm. And maybe after a certain time, your reward is that moment in time in 1990, whatever, where you're on the jet ski.
Right.
You know? Oh man, yeah. I love time travel stories as well, and unfortunately, there's just so few that actually do them well. Even though Back to the Future has its many flaws, at least it does a good job of trying to explain how its time travel works. And that was the first time I ever saw that kind of branch theory and the intersection. Like all of that makes very simple sense when you draw it out and talk about the intersection points. I love how much we're getting to see Tom Hiddleston. Like I said in the last episode, he's just chewing up scenery. I love how and I saw somebody else make this observation as well, how he has that kind of middle kid, second kid syndrome, where like every time he does something, he's just like, huh?
Yeah, well, it's funny because
like Owen
Wilson started being excited.
Yes.
And then the second episode, he wanted nothing to do with Loki. And Loki's like, no, check this out. Like, you're right. It's like he's kind of trying to win the approval now.
The clever, I thought that was a very clever way to like hide the variants in apocalypses that were going to happen.
Yep, Pompeii.
Yeah, which is just great. Or to our friend Pomp 2, because he never saw the first Pomp movie. Tony Hill said that, and it's the best.
I don't care for that. As a historian, scholar, and a gentleman.
Yeah, I don't care for that at all.
Yeah, no, thank you. Pass.
What do you think Loki's game is right now? Do you think he questions whether or not the timekeepers are real? Do you think he's trying to? Does he genuinely think he's going to get a viewing,
an audience?
meeting?
Yeah. I think at this point he thinks he can play them, that he can achieve his goal.
Oh, yeah.
And I think ultimately what he's going to realize is that he either can't, won't, or shouldn't.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Because like you said, this is 2012 Loki. So he's still got that level of hubris where he thinks he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
This isn't 2019 Loki where he's like, I'm been humbled a few times.
But he has seen the outcome of being that.
But he could just be like, I can change this. Yeah. You've given me all these,
that was quite
avenues,
was quite awesome when he was reading through the files, and he wanted Odin's throne. Mm-hmm. He's not Asgardian, but he wanted the throne of Asgard, and then he reads of Asgard's destruction.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of an existential, like, now what?
Yeah.
If you're not going to get what your whole life has been about, what are you going to do now? And those are perfect opportunities for characters that have swung one way on the pendulum to swing the other. Good characters to become bad, and bad characters to, kind of swing anti-hero. Yeah. And so I think we're going to go there. I don't want them to rush it. And I don't want Loki to like indiscriminately like kill and slaughter people. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. I think we're going to see opportunities where he could make the 2012 Loki decision, and he starts not making that decision. And that's going to be kind of the slow burn that explains why this character has changed.
I don't like how Loki keeps getting his butt whooped like left and right. Like everybody, even this like souped up hillbilly in the hurricane shelter. It's like, dude, remember when he was like awesome with his knives?
He's going toe to toe with
in Ragnarok on the bridge, on the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah, it's like, where's that Loki?
Can I point out something? And maybe this will be explained in a later episode. Loki's powers don't work at the TVA. Why isn't he blue?
That's a good point. That's a really good point, actually.
Because that is because he is a frost giant. He's from the Jotunheim.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not.
Because he
was blue when Odin found
he was born blue.
Yeah.
But didn't somebody put that
he's doing it to himself.
Oh, yes. Okay, I thought somebody
making the
put that
enchantment. That's interesting.
enchantment on him. So,
That's interesting.
okay, that makes sense.
And I don't know if you caught the last episode, but we talked about the DB Cooper thing, and that really irritates me because he's like, "Oh, I was young." It's like, no, dude, you're already 1,000 years old.
Yeah,
at
that
this
would be
point.
like 2 weeks ago for
Yeah,
Loki.
yeah,
You know?
that drove me nuts.
Super clever though.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
hoping
it
it'd
was
actually
kinda
be worked into.
Just don't
the-
take that line out. Just take that
just-
line out that says I was young. It's like, no, dude.
Yeah,
you're-
just say I lost a bet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta
well,
say.
and then what was the bet? Can you hijack an aircraft? Can you get the government to bring you money? And mid-flight, can you parachute out of it? All without essentially leaving a trace behind. Was that what the bet was? Like,
Yeah, because then that Thor and Loki, either they hyper then mature, which that's not what it is. Because like you said, like it would just be a few weeks ago to them, in their the way that they feel. So it's like, it bothers me. It bothers me more than it probably should, but it feels like they're not. They pay people to get. They're called continuity directors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, that's their job. And this already in 2 episodes feels like a lot of continuity is.
Well, speaking of more continuity, this got me thinking, like, Thor should not be having this many feels for Jane Foster at all. Because she's like a sea monkey to him.
Yeah.
She's going to die in like a month to him. He shouldn't be attaching those many feelings. He shouldn't have feelings
I
for her
can
like that.
reconcile that because he's attaching feelings to so many people on Earth.
Right, but that makes less sense.
Really? See, I think because he's spending a lot of time with them, like I think he's kind of adapting to like what's going on.
Sure, I get that part of it, but it's just, I feel like he should have the love like he has for like a pet.
Yeah.
Something like that
I'm
instead
gonna,
of like.
I'm going to take this in a weird direction.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to take this in a Highlander direction. Here's what I mean. 'Cause everything in life comes back to Highlander.
Dang right.
Yeah, because if you could pick any movie in the universe, there can be only one.
The
So
original Endgame.
So
True.
Thor has the friendships, right? He had the Warriors 3,
Yeah.
Sith, and this, will they, won't they sort of thing. So when you're Asgardian with other Asgardians, you're going to have this long relationship, right?
Sure.
But the specialness of a relationship is in the value of shared time, knowing that it's not going to last forever. Everybody in a romantic way wants their marriage to last forever. Wants to, they also talk about growing old. But the truth is, we all know that you're going to grow old and then die.
A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
He has that warrior attitude towards it, like, we could go at any moment.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy the time we have.
We play hard. We love hard.
we
too.
love hard.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Could
Okay,
you say
that-
Love
I can
and
reconcile
Thunder?
that too.
Oh, the next Thor movie.
Did you catch? And I saw somebody piece this together. Every time there was thunder and lightning happening, Loki kept like looking up.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I love it.
Because in Avengers, that was the first when he's in the
that's right.
aircraft
He's like,
after they
that's not
capture
good.
Loki
Yep.
in Germany.
I'm not overly fond of what
Yes.
usually comes after.
Yes, that's a fantastic. Now, if a continuity director is doing their job, that's a good way to
Yes,
do it.
yes. Not all is forgiven, but thank you for at least
you make up
giving
for
that.
Go.
I thought that was. I just thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I'm hiding in apocalypses. Like that's awesome. I wonder if it is going to be like I didn't think about a mix of until we kind of talked about it. The Enchantress of this world is the Loki.
Right.
I kind of don't want that. I want this to just be Enchantress and then her just like throwing everybody off the trail, making it seem like it's Loki.
Sure.
So she's it's a hat on a hat kind of hiding thing,
Or, once again, the thing about multiverse, the thing about time travel is that she has more knowledge than he.
Yes.
So her appearance as a female Loki could be completely intentional to get him to go after her.
Yes.
Like, what's up this? What's this about?
Yeah. Do I have your attention now?
She needs enchantment and she needs misdirection or something.
Right.
And oh man, that's interesting. Eric had a good point in the last episode that he thought that we were going to lead to the Lady Loki, so that we can have a Lady Loki, Jane Foster Thor type thing.
Right.
Because it kind of stinks to not have. This is not the version of Enchantress that's from the comics, and definitely in my head, she's very, a seductive. She's really into Thor.
Mm-hmm.
I can take the turn, but this is almost. She just looks so young.
Right.
Like she does not seem to be formidable in her youthful appearance.
Right. there's not a lot of wisdom, like weary wisdom behind that,
And maybe that'll pair well with the Jane being,
like,
the
I'm
new
Thor now,
Thor,
but handle this responsibility.
Or is this even gonna bleed over into Love?
I mean, it's setting. It should. I think it should. It's setting itself up to.
You have a show starring essentially an Asgardian.
I mean,
Yeah.
But you know what though? Maybe Loki really is supposed to be the send off to this big phase of the Marvel universe, and not so much playing up to the next Thor, but playing up to the next 10 films.
He's kind of the last loose end of the Avengers.
He really is. Yeah.
So this could be tying up the last loose end of the.
I wonder if Jane's going to be the cameo. That would be interesting.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that because hey, we need to talk to somebody who's like an expert in
Norse mythology
or the Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Einstein Rosenbridge.
Yeah. What if in a different universe, Jane was worthy? Thor's cast to Earth. She picks up the hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but once again, not the problem, but they really wanted to make the movies like you didn't have to see all the shows to understand the episode.
Right.
They had mentioned that when they were prepping for WandaVision, that they wanted them to have a little bit of standalomeness.
Sure.
So I don't think we're going to see a huge effect on maybe then the multiverse push, but then each movie is going to explain the multiverse again.
Right.
But you know what? The thing about the multiverse is you can explain why the world has never heard, or we have not heard yet, of a Reed Richards. It can explain why mutation has not been a thing.
Right.
And so and so then there can be a world where mutants had existed, where Magneto was in the Holocaust, where whereas it would feel very shoehorned for them to explain that this whole group of people have existed around the globe for so long, completely hidden away. And if the rumors are true that Black Panther 2 is going to have a name or storyline, we're going to get Atlantis. Like, that's going to be a whole nother thing with this whole existence of this place that no one seems to have known about.
Right.
So I don't want to see that again. Loki can be a springboard for the idea of the multiverse and kind of the kickoff that there's going to be multiverse consequences.
Strange.
But I'm hoping that we don't get a heavy, there's going to be people that are not going to have seen WandaVision.
Right.
They're not going to have seen Winter Soldier, not going to have seen Loki, but they're going to go watch Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right.
They're going to go watch Doctor Strange.
Right.
The diehards will see it all.
Sure.
Will see it all. But, my parents, they love the superhero movies.
Sure.
They'll go to them. My dad's still trying to finish WandaVision. Because he's like, what is this?
It's tough. It's tough.
And
it's tough for the uninitiated.
Yeah.
And I did tell him, I said, you'll like Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
much
great.
more of a linear story.
Oh, yeah.
Much more like an episodic movie.
Yeah.
So they're going to check that out next
Weak sauce last 3 episodes, though, man.
Yeah.
I did not care for those last 3 episodes.
They have probably, arguably, talking about sympathetic villains, the sympathetic villain,
God.
and Zemo.
I
think he was
Zemo.
pretty underused in that.
Yeah, give me more Zemo. I could use a 3-episode mini series about Zemo.
Heck yeah.
Just give us these bites. We don't need. I prefer 6 to 8 episodes at least. I love that we got 12.
Sure.
Even though we could have probably gone for 10.
For WandaVision, I would have been okay with 8.
Was it 10 and then it was 8? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it was 10 and then we could have probably done 8 and
would
been
have been
fine.
with WandaVision.
But yeah, I love this. So I saw somebody I follow online said, man, Loki's about to start. I feel like Marvel's attacking me. But dude, I mean, we went a long time without it. So give it to me. We're going to be coming up on Black Widow soon. Finally,
oh my gosh!
I mean, just yet another loose end of the. This is going to be the thing that it's going to kind of jar us out of our storyline, because we know what happens with this character. Because it's going to be hard to go from this to, I think, Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
It is, as excited as I am to have it, they were never meant to be this close together.
No, God, no.
So, it's unfortunately continuity.
It's going to throw the timeline.
Can I make a bold prediction?
Bold me up.
Okay. We're just over halfway through June, so
Yeah.
Black Widow's not out yet. Here's my prediction. Black Widow, either throughout the course of the film, post-credit scene, mid-credit scene, pre-credit scene, well, that's a movie, I guess. We are going to hear mentioned, or not mentioned in name, we're going to get the Thunderbolts.
Okay. You think Thunderbolts show up there?
I think like the way that Tony was confronted by Nick Fury and was like, I want to talk about the vet. I think
Zemo.
I think Ross goes to like Zemo.
Okay. Yeah.
Or I mean,
one of them.
Yes, and
He could be looking for the new Black Widow.
yes, yeah, he could, yeah. So they're going to pass the torch to Florence. Yeah, and he goes to her, and she's like, I don't want to be an Avenger, and he's like, don't worry. He goes, we have a different name, or so,
something
just,
like that.
just enough to let you know that we're going to get a new storyline with maybe some new and existing characters. Do a little bit of like bringing in some of those villain characters. Bring Zemo, maybe U.S. Agent.
Yeah.
U.S. Agent would be great.
Use him. Yeah, now you've just created him. You're going to use him. You better believe that the Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Viper. Madam Hydra.
Yeah. Madam Hydra. I would bet my next paycheck she's in Black Widow.
Makes sense.
So,
but then that means her first appearance was supposed to have been a year ago.
Yes,
not.
I think it was. I think it was supposed to be.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think it was supposed to be. They didn't go back and reshoot her scene.
Oh, yeah.
And so we already knew who she was going to be. But that's why it was going to hit harder in Falcon Winter Soldier when she showed up at the end, because we're going to get some idea of what she is doing behind the scenes, so that when we would see Falcon and Winter Soldier, and she goes up, you're like, oh. I know it.
Yeah.
She's gonna do, and making the joke about her name being long and stuff like that. Like, we're gonna hear her name fully said, and they're gonna say something like, "You can come up with a shorter name," or like, "How big's your business card?" Or that, there's gonna be something. I almost guarantee.
That's it, right? Boom.
Madam Hydra, Thunderbolts, Black Widow. That's my prediction.
That's. I think I'm putting money on that. I'd put money on that.
It's a place, and again, something else green. Madam Hydra, beautiful hair. Man, dude. There's still so much Marvel Universe to get to, and it's going to be interesting to see, because remember when they were coming out with Iron Man, they were like the D list, and now we're going below those guys.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like a bet at Marvel, like, let's see if we can get him over.
Marvel's like, hey guys, like it's that scene in Aladdin with Jasmine. Do you trust me?
Right.
And you know what? It's going to be good, but some of these guys are going to be tougher. Namor's going to be a tougher sell, especially after how good Aquaman was.
Yeah.
But I think you go the villain route. We talked about this before. You go the villain route.
Yeah. Atlantis is making a play for Wakanda. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Okay, this is going to be stupid, but I was actually thinking about like the science behind this. So, vibranium asteroid. Mm-hmm. Hits, right? Well, substructure of the Earth below the crust. I think Atlantis also has vibranium.
Oh,
yes. So it's gone through, right? And maybe they're making a play for the rest of it. Maybe whatever. There's a power vacuum. There's no Black Panther right now.
Yeah.
Perfect time to make a play. So anyway, I could definitely see them doing that. I think it's going to be if they bring in X-Men, and I think one of the hardest casting moves they're going to make is a Wolverine, because everyone sees Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Sure.
They're going to need to bring in someone younger. I have a very controversial pick that neither of you are going to like.
Oh, I'm down.
Zac Efron.
Okay.
Here's where I'm coming from it. I've read very few comics in my life. You notice if you've ever seen me on this show. That I want a short, stocky Wolverine.
Yes.
Hugh Jackman's actually pretty tall.
He is. He's like 6'2".
I want to see the Wolverine that was shorter than like Jubilee on the cartoon. Like, I want him to look up at Morph. Yeah. Like, that's what I want to see. And Zac Efron, man, I think he's an underrated actor. He's done some good drama.
He's good.
He gets physically fit. He can get super ripped. And so could Hugh Jackman. I also liked Scott Eastwood. I think he definitely had the look down.
Dude, I think that's a good choice.
I saw some art of like a Tom Hardy. I think Marvel, though, they're not going to be looking to cast somebody to play a character for 3 movies. They're going to look for someone for 8.
Oh yeah,
especially if it's a Wolverine. If it's another, I mean, I could see them not using Zemo in 5 years. I like Zemo, but I could see them finishing up with him. But if you're going to bring in a Cyclops, a Wolverine, a Charles Xavier, Magneto, I don't think you pull from the age group. I don't think you pull from that side, from that part of Hollywood's age block.
Like 35 and up kind of thing.
And right now in comics, Xavier's young. Like, he's a younger version of himself.
Oh my God.
So, like, they may be setting up for some interesting stuff later.
But I think that's why Warner Brothers went with Robert Pattinson, because you've got Ben Affleck, who's playing the old grizzled, and then you have Flash, where you've got Michael Keaton, the older and more grizzled. but I think you're telling a new Batman, a young Batman,
right.
You get a younger actor.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm into it. I'm here for it. I kind of wish the road was a little bit more clear. However, this is the first time in the MCU that I've been more on par with like your experience, where I'm not overly familiar with the Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a few Eternal stories. I haven't read the original, Kirby run in its entirety. I didn't care for the Neil Gaiman thing as much. So, this stuff, the TVA, Agent Moby, I don't know any of these characters.
The DVDA.
The DVDA, yeah.
Yeah, the NDA.
A lot of people don't understand how those work. But it is nice to kind of have that rush of what's going on. Ooh, there we go.
There we go.
That looks
There it
more
is.
like it.
There it is.
Yeah, that looks
Hey!
more like it. Ooh. So yeah, it just needs to be a tad lighter. That's it. Oh, that looks great.
Yeah.
Kids, that is our show. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think below. For some of you newcomers, we have had some new subscribers. I think since our appearance at the con, we're not news. We just guys talking about comics, guys talking about shows. Come talk with us. Comment below. What are you thinking of Loki? Do you have a better recipe for this? Did you crack the code? Or share some of your food ideas? You can go check out our butterbeer episode as well. Eric, do you have any final thoughts for us today?
Oh, man. I don't know. I think for once I'm kind of a little more excited for this show now.
Yes.
I really am. I'm like, okay, there's more going on here.
Yeah. There's more layers to that onion than we
exactly.
Than we
I think
thought.
I think I'm going to give it one more episode.
People are always giving me crap about not giving the tuna a chance to give us a final thought. If you don't have a good one, you're going to let a lot of people down.
Oh my gosh.
You carried the whole show though. So.
Yeah, you did. You did carry the whole show. But
as the
have you done for me lately?
the son of my father, a disappointment is like a second half to me. So no, I would say that the end of the first Avengers, when you get that Thanos head turn, if you knew who that was, you have a good picture of where things are going. Maybe not every step of the way, but that's Thanos. We've got the Tesseract. This is moving towards infinity. We don't have that moment yet.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's cool.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get that. And maybe it is the multiverse, or maybe it's the Kang reveal. Or, whatever it may be. Like or maybe they're like, listen, instead of leading up to a single big bad for these stories, we're gonna let some of these stories play out before bringing in another Avengers movie, And so anyway, I'm excited for what Marvel's doing. Everyone has forgotten that there's going to be a Hawkeye series.
yeah.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, I'm stoked for that because Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. They did so much cool stuff in the very limited tools that he had to work with. That opening to Endgame was so phenomenally done. It hits so hard if you've just come off from watching Infinity War, and it's like exactly what's happening, and just that like scare of like a father like turning around and his family's gone, like. That's like weirdly unsettling, and that's why it hit, and that's why you see him like going through this anguish, So what I like about what Marvel has done in many of their stories is that they put in humor and action, but it highlights the emotional punch. Because you'll remember an action scene. You'll remember like Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock fight on the train, one of my favorite
it still holds up.
comic fights of all time. But man, like when he tells Aunt May about what happened with Uncle Ben, like that hits hard.
Yeah.
And so all I'd say is like Marvel has done a great job in many, but not all of their stories, hitting that emotional punch. DC's hit a few, they've missed a few. But I want to see, and I feel like WandaVision and even Falcon Winter Soldier have both had good emotional moments, especially that White Wolf scene. And so they did a good job early on with Loki, but that can't be the end of that character's transition. That can't be the end of his change. He needs to progress further, and it needs to cost him something. And so I think we're getting good stuff. I'm excited to see where it's going. I don't know where it's going, and that's the fun part.
Yeah.
A roller coaster is always fun the first time you're on it.
That's a good point.
Kids, that's why I don't ask him for a final thought. That was a long story. I loved every bit of it, though. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next podcast.